the Honorable Graham McTavish.
Thank you very much. First time I've been called the Honourable Graham McTavish, but there you go. Very nice. It's nice to be honourable. Fabulous.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Welcome again. For those of you who were there yesterday, we had a Q&A as well. There were some questions that are going to be asked again today, but with a twist. So I know it's not your first time in Belgium.
No, that's true. Yes, my first time in Belgium. I came here to look, tour the battlefields of the First World War. My family lost I lost three great uncles in the First World War on my mother and father's side. And I had a guide take me around to different parts of Belgium and also France to show me where they had been and where they died and where they were, in one case, actually buried, and in another two cases, they couldn't find their remains. So one is on the Menin Gate, and the other one is, I think in Thiepval is where he is. So yes, that was my first experience of Belgium. So not a kind of sort of romantic weekend away, more of a sort of sad homage to my ancestors. But it was great. I loved it.
So yesterday we played a game, the famous drinking game, Can You Name Three Famous Belgians, which sadly enough you, I will admit, failed a bit. So I know you're prepared, so I'll ask you another question. Can you name the three most famous Scotsmen?
Three most famous Scotsmen? Oh, wow. Gosh. Yes. Well, I mean, the list is endless. There's so many. Sean Connery. There you go. There's a great Scotsman. Alexander Graham Bell, who invented the telephone, and John Logie Baird, who invented the television. That's just for starters. So yeah, it's quite a few. Yeah.
It's easier to play that game.
Easier to play that game, yes. Yes.
Talking about famous people, who would be your personal hero?
Oh gosh. My personal hero. Oh my God. These are great questions. They're just so difficult. I mean, heroes, let me think. Well, I mean, the ones that I've met, let me think, gosh. Well, I met a great actor who you may or may not remember, called Alan Bates, who was in some great films, great actor. And I was lucky enough to meet him. His son was in a play with me, and he was always a hero of mine. And it was such a privilege to talk to him afterwards. He was very nice to me, and that was very cool. But other heroes, yeah, I mean, you know, my parents were pretty heroic. They had a lot to deal with. They were both in the war and lived through a lot, and really remind me of that sort of the stoicism of those people. I remember my mother. She was, let me think. She was 17 when the war began, the Second World War, and she was working in an umbrella factory in London, and she would have to take 2 trams, which you are lucky enough to still have here in Brussels, 2 trams and a bus to get to work. And it was in a street called Wood Street in the city of London. She lived in a place called the Isle of Dogs in East London. And she would take this journey every day. And she went to work one day, and the entire street had been destroyed in a bombing raid. There was nothing left. I think there was a little bit of a church left. The entire street. There's a famous photograph of it, actually. It's just gone. And I said to her, oh my God, that must have been awful. I said, what did you do? Because I was sort of expecting her to say, obviously I was very, very upset. I cried. I didn't know what to do. I sort of stood there in shocked silence. And she went, well, I just went home. And I realized when she said that those kind of people, the people that came from that generation, these things were, you know, she didn't go for trauma counseling or anything like that. She just went home and didn't go to work that day because her work had been destroyed. And it's, and that sort of thing makes me think of heroic behavior, people who can, you know, who deal with terrible things in their lives, but carry on and move forward. So I think anybody who does that is a hero to me.
Having said that, with your parents who survived World War II, were they receptive to the idea that you became an actor, or was it like, oh Jesus, no, get a proper job?
Yeah, no, that's actually another very good question. Yeah, I mean, there was no history of acting in my family at all. I think my mother was picked for a school play once, but just because I think nobody else was available. When I sort of started saying that I wanted to be an actor, or I was interested in being it, my mother was very, very supportive, very supportive. She came to every single play I ever did. She would drag my father along. My dad would sit there in seats, and he would always complain about the seats. You know, after the play, it would never be, you know, what a wonderful play, what a masterpiece, you know, incredible, very, very uncomfortable seats, Graham. Very, very hard seats. And I do remember him, I mean, he was sort of, he was supportive. He worried about the money, which is, you know, completely understandable. I mean, you'd have to be insane, really, to go into this business, but they never once said, you can't do that. That's a really stupid idea. So I was very lucky, and I always try and remember that with my own children. But I do remember him coming to see me in a play where I had to appear naked on stage. I sort of went through a naked on stage period in my career. I did it about 3 times in short succession. I don't know why, but anyway, this particular play called The School of Night, it doesn't actually ask for my character to be naked, but the director, when we were rehearsing it, said, "Oh, Graham, I was just wondering, how would you feel about you being naked in this scene? And, you know, you're enthusiastic." And I went, "Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah, no problem at all. I'm being taken away to be tortured. So I get dragged out in the middle of the night, I'm naked, I'm being taken away by the secret police, blah, blah, blah." My dad comes to see it. Now, I had warned them that there was going to be nudity in this scene. And after the play, I went to the bar and saw them. And my mother was just sort of gushing with enthusiasm. She was always very, very happy about whatever I was doing. And she said, "Oh, it was so great, well done, darling, that was really wonderful, wonderful." My dad was just standing there in silence. And I was like, she was like, "It was wonderful, wonderful." And I turned to my father and he just went, "There was no need for that." That was my dad's critique of the evening. Yes.
Reassure me you were dressed when you went to the bar.
And that was the mistake I made, I forgot to get dressed. No, yes, of course, no, I was dressed.
But let me guess, that was like 30 years ago?
Well, when I did that play? No, gosh, how long ago was it? Oh, it was about, actually, God, yeah, it was about 23 years ago. Shit. Oh, God, that's really depressing.
The thing is, would you, I mean, 23 years ago there were the first cell phones, but they were not with the cameras and anything. Would you do it again, being naked on stage, knowing that people can just film you and then put it online?
Yeah, I'd never even thought of that. Yeah, I mean, well, I guess in theatres people are pretty vigilant about that, I guess. But yeah, I know, it's strange. When I first started out in theatre, or early on in my theatre career, we used to, when we would do performances, obviously, you know, you were not allowed to take photographs, and these were with actual cameras. And I did performances at a theatre in Glasgow called the Citizens Theatre, which is a great theatre. And the front of house manager, so the person that was in charge of looking after the audience, basically, if she saw somebody in the audience with a camera, she would march down the aisle, grab the camera, rip the film out of the camera, and then hand the camera back. I mean, that was hardcore stuff. She didn't muck around, But I do remember that naked production. Yes. There was a pub that we used to go to, and the landlord, he was quite a character. And there was a lady in the bar, and she saw me, and she said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm doing this play." And she said, "Oh, right. I'm coming to see it tomorrow night. Where's a good seat? Where's a good seat to sit?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I mean, it's anyway." And the landlord said, "Oh, I would recommend C20. You get a really good view of his, you know what, from C20." And I was like, "I'm sorry, you know the seat number where you can?" Yes. So that was a very strange encounter. But she didn't bring a camera, fortunately. Yeah.
And what do you prefer? Acting clothed normally? Acting in a costume or acting naked? Is there
or acting naked? Yes. No. I prefer costumes. Yes. I mean, obviously, I did a lot of prosthetics in The Hobbit, and actually, my first filming job was a film called Life Force with Tobe Hooper was the director, and I had a full face prosthetic on then. But I much prefer just nice, normal, not too heavy costumes. I'm not a big suit guy in the work I do. I seem to wear lots of cloaks, you know, ride horses, carry candles, the odd sword. Not many cell phone kind of roles that I do. But yeah, I do like a costume. So no more nudity, please. No.
What's the longest you've been in a makeup chair to actually get your?
Oh God, the longest I've been in a makeup chair. Well, it would have to be The Hobbit. Yeah, that was an hour in prosthetics and an hour in getting the beard and everything on, and then another half an hour to get into the costume. So yeah, about 2.5 hours, but that's not too bad, you know.
Yeah, the reason I asked is you might have seen Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
You got this character Drax.
Yes.
And he had, I mean, in an interview he explained he had to sit down for 6 to 7 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, that must drive you mental. Even 2.5 hours, you can't move. What do you do? How do you look on the side?
I have no idea how they do it. I remember talking to Lawrence Macquarie, who was in Lord of the Rings playing the orc, the sort of terrifying orc, the one that gets birthed in front of Christopher Lee, and he comes out of it. I mean, it was just an incredible. I've never forgotten it.
And he kills one of the.
Yeah, he kills Sean Bean, all of that sort of stuff. And I spoke to him about it, and he was in that makeup. It took 12 hours to put that on. 12 hours. Yeah, he slept while they were doing it. It just went on and on and on. That would kill me. Yeah.
You've been acting for
a long time. I've been acting for a long time, yes.
Is there anything you would say like, that's the thing that changed the most in those last 40 years?
The thing that's changed the most?
In the industry.
Oh, in the industry. Wow, yeah, good question. Well, I mean, certainly in theatre, which is how I started out. The sad thing, certainly in Britain, I don't know if it's the same here in Belgium, but we used to have a very, very good, what they call a repertory theatre system. So you would start your career by going to provincial theatres and doing 4 weekly rep. So you would rehearse for 3.5 weeks, then you'd go on for 4 weeks, and then there would be another play that would come on afterwards. And so you would do a season where you might do 4 different plays, and you'd be rehearsing during the day, performing at night. And that was great training for an actor. I remember doing one theatre season where I did 6 different plays, and by the time they were all up, I was doing a different play every night, a different production. So Monday through Saturday. And yeah, so that you just had to work really, really hard. But nowadays, that system is sort of dying in Britain, which is very, very sad, because it also means that young actors coming in aren't getting that training. So that's a huge change. CGI, obviously. There was nothing like that when I began as an actor. I mean, that's why I love all the in-camera effects that you have in movies. When you watch something and you know it's real, you can tell. You can appreciate CGI, but I think you always know. And so there's a part of you that is somewhat removed from the experience. When you know that something is happening for real in front of you. It's like when you go and see a play. I don't know if you've ever seen Cirque du Soleil, but I hadn't seen Cirque du Soleil before. And I went for the first time only about 2 years ago. And it's just astonishing. It's astonishing, the physical abilities of those people. And so when you're actually experiencing that in real time, I think it adds to your enjoyment of a performance.
Yeah, and the thing about Cirque du Soleil is the trust they have in each other, because you try yourself, and if the other one is looking away, then well,
no. I mean, I could never do that in a million years. What they do, it's fabulous. Yeah.
I know you've spoken about theater. I know you do some voice acting.
Yeah.
You filmed. You have to choose one of the three. From now on, only theater, only filming, or only voice acting. What would you choose?
God. Well, yes, if I had to choose one now, it would probably be filming. Yeah. Just because, I mean, I really want to do theatre again. It's been 17 years since I did a play. I really want to do it again, and I might do one with any luck next year. But it's just pure laziness, really. Just laziness, you know, because when you do a play, obviously you have to learn all the lines. And I did do a one-man show 23 years ago. And I did that in Ireland. And I had to play two characters, one in the first half, one in the second, that were linked by a third unseen character. And I thought at the time it was a really good idea to do this one-man show, and it was great. But it sounds like an obvious thing to say, but what I hadn't realized was, of course, you're completely alone. I mean, it's stupid not to understand that. It's a one-man show. But I'd done two-man shows before, and just having one other person on stage makes everything so much more bearable. When it's only you, you're completely alone and just like vulnerable, I suppose. And it's very stressful. And I remember I used to do that performance, and my director used to come every single night and be in the bar with a pint of Guinness afterwards, just as a kind of reward for getting through it. But it was an amazing experience. But yeah, I do film, I think. I would do film. Yeah.
Have you ever had a blankout on stage where you're
like forgetting my lines? Oh yeah. Oh God, every actor forgets their lines. It's a horrible moment because you're thinking ahead. It's a very strange process. I mean, anyone here who's had to memorize anything, your brain is functioning at different speeds. So there's the part of your brain that is functioning at the speed of speaking, and then there's the part of your brain that's functioning at the speed of knowing what's coming next. So you're saying the lines, whatever these lines are, but there's a little bit of you that's scrolling ahead. It's like it's like a scroll, I guess. But there's a moment when you're on stage where the scroll just runs out, and you're like, oh shit, but what's coming next? And you're saying the lines that are leading up to this blank moment, and you're almost slowing them down so that you can remember what it is that you have to say. And then you stand there, and when you're on stage with an actor who is having that happen to them, their eyes start to dance. It's a complete giveaway. They literally, you can't see it from there, but their eyes start dancing, and you know, and if you're a supportive actor, you try and help them out. You try and give them a kind of clue. Like, weren't you going to talk about, you know, the boat that you were on? And then, this is the boat! Yes, the boat! And then, you know, and then you give them another hint or whatever. And then there are those actors who literally don't give a shit, who just stand there and just watch you suffer while you flounder around, and they're just going, well, still waiting. And then there's the moments where you you laugh on stage, which are just, I mean, sometimes the audience can like that sort of stuff, but it can be very embarrassing. And I used to be, they call it corpsing, and I used to be a terrible corpser. You could make me laugh at anything. And there are actors who, if they know that, will try and make you laugh. So they will always be facing upstage so the audience can't see their faces. And they'll just be doing stuff to make you laugh. Or they'll give you a prop that is clearly not the prop that you were expecting, just to see if you can laugh. And that is just awful. You stand there and you're biting the inside of your face, or cheeks, you're doing anything, you're pinching yourself to try and make yourself not laugh. But there was an actress, oh God, I was doing a comedy, and the actress concerned was always trying to make me laugh. And she came on stage. I mean, this is a bit sort of not unpleasant, but yeah, she came on stage, and she's supposed to be meeting some other characters, and I'm her husband. And she walked on stage, and she started to say the line, and she accidentally, now this is a little bit graphic, she accidentally gobbed up this enormous sort of lump of phlegm out of her mouth into her hand. Oh yeah, I mean, it was bad. It was bad. It was obvious. I mean, this wasn't a tiny bit of phlegm. This was like, oh my God, what just came out of your mouth? And now it's in your hand. And so we're all standing there. So I'm literally, she's supposed to be about to shake people's hands. Oh yeah, yeah. And I'm standing there, she's here, two other actors are here. She does that into the hand, donk, like that. And we're all, she's just holding her hand out like this. And we're all staring at this thing in complete horror. What is this? And then, and this is the worst part, okay. She just goes, oh yeah! And at that point, the other actors started laughing so much, they just walked off the stage. I mean, there was a whole scene that was supposed to happen, and then just, they just left. And I was left on stage to try and salvage this disaster that was unfolding. And it was so awful, I couldn't even laugh. It was so bad. And yeah, she was always doing stuff like that. Angela, her name was. Wonderful, great actress. But yeah, obviously a bit of a problem with her throat. But yeah, corpsing, awful. Yeah, I used to laugh at anything at all.
Yeah. Two final questions from me before we take some questions from the audience.
Yes.
Is there any person, any actor, actress you say, before I pass, that's the one person I'd like to work with?
Oh God, why are all your questions so deep and searching? I was madly in love with Diana Rigg when I was growing up. That was my crush as a child. I used to watch a show called The Avengers that was on in the late 60s into the early 70s, and she played a character called Emma Peel, and she was just so sexy. I mean, she wore a leather jumpsuit. I mean, yeah, she wore a leather jumpsuit, and I was 8, 9. I didn't even know why I liked her so much, but I would just love watching this thing. I'd be like, oh my God, when's the Avengers coming on? When's it coming on? Oh, here you go. Yeah, and I would have loved to meet her, and I was very sad when she passed, because she was in Game of Thrones, and I would have loved to meet her. But people that are still alive, well, some of the great actors that I've admired, Gene Hackman, who is still alive, but he retired years and years ago. I'm a huge admirer of him. Anthony Hopkins, would love to meet him. I'm lucky enough to have worked with Ian McKellen, who I think is amazing. Yeah, Clint Eastwood. I would love to meet Clint Eastwood. He was another one that I grew up just sort of worshipping. So I actually saw him once stuck in traffic, and it was so weird to see someone like that stuck in traffic. You know, they're just sitting there looking like everybody else looks when they're stuck in traffic. They're just like bored and angry. You think, Clint Eastwood shouldn't be stuck in traffic. He should all be just getting out of the way, letting him through. And I was driving the other way, and he was in this beautiful vintage car, which is the first thing that caught my eye. And as I'm driving, I'm like, holy fuck, that's Clint Eastwood. And I had to keep driving, because there was no traffic on my side, but poor Clint was stuck. So I would love to meet him.
Probably was thinking like, are you looking at me, punk?
That's right, that's right. Yeah, no, he was just very upset, you can see it.
Hey, my final question is, when's the last time you did something for the first time?
Oh, well, Men in Kilts. Yeah, the last time I did something for the first time, and probably the only time, doing the Nevis Swing in New Zealand, which is the largest canyon swing, I think, in the world. It's a 100-meter free fall, then a 300-meter arc into a canyon wall. And I did it with Sam Hewen, and I remember, I was very nervous. I mean, some of you may know that I don't love heights. And so Sam Hewen, being this sort of monstrous, torturing bastard that he is, decided to try and make me scared as often as possible on this particular show we were doing. And the Nevis Swing, I'd already done 2 adrenaline-fueled events that day. And this was the climax. And I went to this place, and I mean, you can look it up afterwards. Just Google Nevis Swing and just watch a video of somebody doing it, and you will understand. But I arrived, and I was very nervous, and I said to the director, I said, look, I'm not sure I want to do this. I'm not sure if I can. And he said, it's okay, Graham. I mean, I understand. We're not going to force you to do anything. And then one of the staff came over, this guy called Doug. And he said, you're a bit nervous? You're a bit nervous? And I said, yes, you could say that. He goes, no, it's okay, don't worry, you know. It's absolutely fine. It's a swing. It's a swing. Just think of it as a swing. So, you know, it's actually very, very serene, and you hear birds, and it's beautiful. And I was like, really? And he went, yeah. And I said, okay, only one question, Doug. Do I go upside down on this swing? Is there any point where I'm upside down? And he said, absolutely not. No, it's a swing. You don't go upside down on a swing. You're just going, you're doing that. It's really nice. And I went, oh, okay, that's reassuring. And he said, so should we get you ready? And I went, yeah, okay, let's do it, yeah. And I was all like, okay, it's a swing, it's gonna be fine. And then they take you out onto this platform. And to get to the platform, you have to go across this tiny narrow bridge, which is some ridiculous distance above the earth, you know. And it looks like a postage stamp, the thing that you're moving towards. It's so small. And I was terrified even doing that. And then when you get there, there's another guy, and he says, "Oh yeah, so we're gonna hook you in, and you're gonna be going backwards. You're gonna be on it, swinging backwards." I said, "Well, what backwards?" So why would I be swinging backwards? He said, "Oh, people find it actually less frightening because they're not seeing where they're going. So it's the easier way if you're a bit nervous." And I'm like an idiot. I actually believed this guy. I was like, oh yeah, it totally makes sense, yeah, backwards, yeah, great. So they get us into this thing, and you walk backwards onto the edge of the platform, sit down. I mean, you're hooked in, you know, but even so, you know, your brain is saying, no, don't do it. And you go backwards, and then there's this bar, which is about that thick, that you sit on. And I'm next to Hewen, who's just laughing and giggling, you know, in this annoying fashion, wearing some kind of sleeveless top, probably, just to really annoy me. And I sit down, and by now, I am nervous. I mean, like I'm at 80% of my maximum fear level. I'm gripping like white knuckles on this thing like this. And they say, okay, we're gonna count down now. Here we go, guys. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and he lets it go. And I'm not joking. All I could see as I plummeted to the earth were my feet. As I was vertically inverted, going down. And it was so terrifying that I couldn't even scream. I did not utter a sound. It was so awful. It was such a sensory overload because your brain is essentially telling you, you are dying. This is death. You are now experiencing death as I'm going down towards the earth. And then you begin the swing backwards, which is almost worse because you can't see where you're going. And you just think, oh, I'm just going to hit the wall at any moment, you know, the canyon. And then you get backwards and forwards. And I get back to the top. They finally get me to the top. And I'd actually broken down weeping doing it as I was swinging. And Sam filmed it on a GoPro that he brought with him for this particular reason. And I got to the top, and the first thing I realized was they'd send me backwards because they wanted to film my expression of naked terror as I plummeted to the earth. And then I realized that fucking Doug had left. He'd gone. And I just thought, that bastard just lied to my face. And so they were all in on it together, complete conspiracy to just terrify me. So that's the last time I did something for the first time, and I will never do it again.
Thank you. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your time to shine. Who has any question for Graham? Don't be shy. Yep. There's somebody in the middle. Yes, and the microphone is coming.
Oh, you haven't got the giant microphone?
No, it's a small one.
Just a normal microphone today. They had something like the size of a small box yesterday.
So, hello, let's talk about Scotland. I'm going there in 2 weeks, and I wanted to know what was your favorite place I really have to visit, something I must not miss.
Right, I get asked this question a lot. I do. I should actually come out with a travel guide to Scotland. Well, obviously there's Edinburgh, which is one of the most beautiful countries in Europe. Stunning, you know, and you want to walk everywhere if you can. It's a great walking city, so many things to discover. Glencoe is relatively easy to access from Glasgow, which is a beautiful, beautiful place. Culloden Battlefield, which is a very moving experience if you're interested in Scottish history. The Applecross Peninsula. You got this amazing road called Bealach na Bar, which is the pass of the cattle. And it's this winding sort of switchback road that takes you to the top of this hill, and then you descend down into this little village called Applecross, and that's very, very beautiful. Plockton nearby, the Isle of Skye, the Isle of Mull. I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, it's just, there's a lot. If you saw all of that, you'd be doing very well. Yeah.
All right, lady to the right. Yep.
Hello. Besides not to trust Sam Hugan when he tells you to go on the swing, what's the best advice someone has ever given you?
What's the best advice someone's ever given me? Oh, wow. The best advice someone's ever given me. Well, yeah, I think probably it's very simple advice that was always what my dad would say whenever I was doing anything, was just to do your best. And he would always say, you know, as long as you've done your best, there's nothing more anyone can ask of you. And so try your best in whatever you're doing, and you'll never feel disappointed. And I've always remembered it, I've tried to pass it on to my own children, that if you can complete something knowing that you absolutely did your best, and it doesn't need to be the best, but as long as you've tried your best, then that's, you'll have a much happier life, I think. Yeah.
All right, the person at the right, at the back.
Oh, hello.
Hello. I just have one question, of course. During your long career, did you have the opportunity to work behind the camera?
To work behind the camera?
Yes, as a director, for example.
I've never directed anything. No, I've never directed anything. I mean, on Men in Kilts, we were the sort of creators and executive producers of Men in Kilts. And we would look at shots and stuff. But I would love to do something like that. I really would. I've actually got a good friend of mine that's going going to be directing a film, and he's an actor, and he's never done it before, and I'm very envious. So I really hope that one day I do. I would love to do that. Yeah.
All right, the person in the middle, at the back.
Yep.
Yep.
Hello. We've talked about many kids. How did Sam get you to do all these things, like going to accept all these adventures?
Why did I accept them?
Yeah.
I know, it's a really good question. I'm just an idiot. Why did I accept them? Well, the weird thing is, it's like there's two parts of you. So when we were planning the trip, they were saying, what can we do that's interesting and exciting? And I said, hey, I know they go shark cage diving in New Zealand. And even as I was saying it, there was the other part of my brain going, shut up. Shut up, why are you suggesting shark cage diving? And I was going, yeah, I think that could look amazing. So I was thinking as a producer, rather than the actual participant in the experience. So all of those things made sense from a producing point of view and a writing point of view. But from an actual doing it point of view, the rest of me was just going, no thank you to the sharks, which did manage to combine three of my greatest fears. Being stuck in an enclosed space, breathing underwater, and being in the presence of a great white shark. All of those things combined, it was just an absolute smorgasbord of horror. That was just, looking at that, I mean, when I got down when I finally got underwater, and I saw the viewing hole, and for a start, why is there a hole? Why don't you just look through the bars that are keeping you safe from the massive apex predator? No, let's put in a big black hole. And once you get down there, that hole looks really big. And Sam, literally just before we went into the water, showed me a video from somewhere of one of these sharks getting into the cage through the hole. It was in the cage. And this is a tiny cage. And you just see this video of the top of the cage coming up and the people getting out and this shark thrashing around. And I'm like, no thanks. So actually part of me has no idea why I agreed.
All right, we got two final questions. Go ahead.
Hello. It seems like Sam's love to torture you in this show. Are you planning any revenge? And do you know his fears or something?
Yes.
Because for the swing, I've seen the video of the swing, and you should get a revenge. Surely.
Yeah, I'm going to, yes. Hopefully, if we do another season, yes, absolutely. It will feature snakes.
Oh.
He has a fear of snakes. This is such good news to me. Because I actually really like snakes. And, I was in Australia, I was doing a job in Australia, and there was a snake farm. And I went with my kids, and you could put the snakes all around you, these massive kind of pythons and stuff, and drape them over your shoulders, and this would be Sam's idea of hell. So I really want to incorporate snakes as much as possible. Probably in everything that we do, actually. I'll just have a snake there. He also has a fear of helicopters, so we managed to get that in the last season. And I loved that. That was great. Just watching his mounting anxiety as we took off and we're sort of flying close to this wall. Because the pilot in New Zealand, this guy called Alfie, he's an incredible helicopter pilot. He's done all these movies. He was the one that did all the helicopter stuff in that Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise and Henry Cavill, where they're chasing each other in helicopters. That was all in New Zealand, and he was one of the pilots. And so when we finished filming, he took us back to base and we flew through somewhere called Shotover Canyon, which is this incredibly narrow gorge. And we flew about maybe 40 feet above the river. I mean, incredibly low. incredibly low. We were low enough to be able to wave to a guy and we could see his face clearly. You know, he was just like that and we were going over here. And Sam was just shitting himself. It was fantastic. I just kept going, yes, more, faster, lower. So yeah, I need to find out more things he's frightened of. Maybe he doesn't like cats or something. Yeah, or allergic to cats, that would be great. Mosquitoes was good. Midges, they hate him. So that was good. Yeah, midges love me. You see, they don't want me.
All right, Graham, time for one final quick question.
Sorry, yes,
hello.
Hi, first of all, I love your work, but if you could choose any other job, what would you do?
Oh, if I could choose any other job? Oh, gosh. I think it would have to be something outdoors. The only jobs I've ever done other than acting, really, were being a gardener and being a postman. So I was a postman. I used to deliver post. And I loved that. I had a bicycle and I would just cycle around and do my deliveries. I loved it. I was 18 and I just remember there was one house that I used to deliver to, and every morning, it was like some kind of fantasy really. Every morning I would arrive and this lady would come. These were the days when people used to deliver milk to your door. And she would always be coming out of the house just as I was coming up the drive with the post. And she was incredibly beautiful. And she would always be wearing some kind of like negligee, basically half dressed. And she would just be coming down the driveway going, morning. And I'd just be standing there like, here's your post. And that was good, apart from the dogs. The dogs. What they say about postmen and dogs is all true. Dogs hate postmen. They hate them. I used to arrive, there was one dog in particular, and I used to have to pretend not to be delivering mail to the house. So I would have to be pretending to cycle past the house like that, and the dog would be in the window like this, like looking at me. And then at the very last moment, I would drop the bike and run up the path with the letters. And I could see out of the corner of my eye the dog go, and he would be, and I would hear him. And there was like parquet flooring, you know, that kind of wooden flooring. And you'd hear his claws sliding on the floor and smashing into the door, barking as I was putting the letters through the letterbox. And it would eat the letters. And you just think, why didn't the owner, like, does he want his post to be eaten? I didn't understand it. But when the guy who trained me gave me a piece of wood, a piece of 2x4 wood that I strapped to the crossbar of my bike. And I said, why are you giving me that? And he said, it's for the dogs. And I said, really? He went, oh yeah. Yeah, they'll go for you. They'll go for you. And he said, so what I do is I don't wait for them to attack me, I attack them. So he would see a dog, and he would get this piece of like that. That was his training for me as a postman. So if I couldn't do anything like acting, yeah, something outdoors, something involving dogs, and delivering mail. Yeah.
Graham, I wanted to thank you for these extremely heartfelt responses. That's all we have time for. Give it up for Graham!
Thanks very much. Thank you.